So before we start our special effects makeup demonstration videos, I'm just going to introduce you to a few of the products that we're going to be using. These are the most common products we use in the special effects and theatrical makeup demonstrations. There are some exceptions, but we'll get to those a bit later as we get more advanced. So the first thing that you need is some colours, some paints. This is a paint palette that I like to use. It's water-based face paint. Any water-based face paint will be fine. I like this particular brand, which is Grimace, because I like the little palette system it has, but any water-based face paint will do the same job for you. This over here is a special effects wax. This one is called Nose and Scar Wax by Ben Nye. That's my preferred brand for teaching because I find that it's the easiest one to use when people are new to the subject. There are lots of brands on the market, but some of them are much more difficult to use. This product is a liquid latex or a latex rubber milk, and this is used for lots of different effects, and I use it in combination with the wax quite a lot because it forms a nice skin over the wax and helps it to be more tightly stuck to your skin and easier to paint. You'll need a decent quality special effects blood or film blood, which generally comes in two different colours, a light blood or a dark blood. This one is the dark, but either or both are good. Very technical toilet tissue, toilet roll. That's a good product to have around, either for cleanup or for using in your effects, which you'll see later on in the videos. We have some bath sponge, which I generally like to use for applying the liquid latex, because if you use a brush or a more expensive sponge, it just gets ruined and you have to throw it away. So something nice and cheap that you can cut chunks out of and just dispose of at the end is the best way to go for applying your liquid latex. You can also use the same type of sponge for applying paints for different effects later on as well, but we don't need to know that just now. This black sponge is a special carbon sponge or stipple sponge, and this one is used for applying the blood if you want to create a splatter effect, because it gives you a nice spatter pattern for blood effects when you have a need for a spatter pattern, basically. And we have some glitter for your prettier effects, and some Vaseline over here, which I use in conjunction with the glitter to help the glitter to stick. I prefer this system to using a glitter that's already in its own gel, because I find that dries out too quickly and some of it gets wasted. We need some cocktail sticks, which the reason for that will become apparent when you watch the videos. And I have three different types of brushes I generally tend to use. I use a small, a medium and a large brush, which is generally used for blending. You can see I've got a fourth type of brush here, which the reason for that is because this one has a special end on it, which is used for scraping. So when I want to use the special effects wax, I use this brush with this type of end to scrape the wax as if I was scraping margarine from a tub, and then I can take the wax from the brush and roll it into the little sausage shapes or whatever other shape I need to make with my special effects wax to do my cuts or bullet holes or any other effect that I'm planning to do. You can also use a wooden spatula or something along those lines if you find that you can't find a brush like this, but they are fairly easy to find from art shops in my general experience. I think that's all the equipment I need to tell you about for now, so let's get on with the videos and we'll get to the more advanced stuff later. So, first thing I've done is I've got a piece of wax and I've rolled it into a little sausage shape, like so. And I'm going to position that where I want the cut to be. So I'm going to put that there. Then I'm going to use my thumb to just press and drag on the edges to smooth that down. It's really important to make sure it's completely blended and that you can't see any of the joins around the edges, because otherwise it won't be stuck properly. If you just do this and you can still see all the joins, that's not going to work. You need to press and drag and make sure this is blended into the skin colour as you can possibly manage. Some people's skin colour it matches better than others. This one's a pretty good match, which is good. We need the raised bit in the middle so that you've actually got something to cut through, because otherwise you have to actually cut your model and they don't really appreciate it when you do that. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get a cocktail stick. and you're going to drag that through the centre part where your thick wax is. It's important when you're doing this on someone else to use the side of the stick, not the point of the stick, because if you're using the point you can scratch them for real and the side can't. So press the stick down into the wax and drag it through the centre like so. And you should get a nice wide cut, because if your cut is too thin and delicate, then when you put your latex layer on next, it's just going to seal it back up. And we don't want it to do that. So we've done our slice through the middle. Then we're going to put a layer of the liquid latex, which is your white, weird smelling stuff, over the top of the cut. And we're going to let that dry completely. Now it's really important when you're using latex that you put it on with one of these pieces of cut up bath sponge and not with a brush, because if you put it on with a brush, it will dry in the bristles like chewing gum and it doesn't wash out. If you get it in the bristles and wash it out while it's wet, it'll be okay, but if you let it dry, it won't come out of brushes, it won't come out of clothing, and it won't come out of hair. So bear that in mind before you do anything too close to your hairline or too close to your clothes. So now we've got to let that dry, and we've got to make sure it dries completely before we can do anything else. When it's dry, it goes completely see-through. If it's still white, it's not dry, so don't touch it. So once it's gone see-through, we'll get back to the demo. Okay, and we're back. So you can see it's gone completely see-through around the edges. You can see a few bits that still look a little bit white, so I'm just going to test those to see whether they're wet or not. If you just drag the stick back over the top of those, you can see whether there's any latex coming off on the cocktail stick, which there isn't. So that means that that is now dry. Now the reason we've put the latex over the top of this is to form a skin over it, because it stops it from coming off so easily, and it forms a nice barrier, so when you put the paint on, the paint is going to not stick to the wax so much, because the wax is really tacky, and when you paint over it, it just won't blend properly over the wax on its own. So that's why we've done that. Now we're going to do some colours to make this look nice and realistic. So the first colour I'm going to use is going to be some black. This is just face paint colour. Any water-based makeup colour will do. So I've got a wet brush, and I'm getting some black on that. And the black is going to go through the centre of the cut, because that makes it look deeper when it's finished. If you don't do that, it just doesn't look very deep and doesn't look very convincing. So we're going to put the black through the centre. Then I'm going to use 3 other colours to create a kind of a bruise effect around the outside edges, which helps to cover the shiny latex and just helps it to look nice and bruised and real. First colour I'm going to use is some red, because red makes things look sore, and if you've got a nice big cut, it's going to be quite painful. So I'm just going to put some red random dots all around the edges of the cut like so. It's better to do random dots than a nice neat little pattern, because if you do a nice neat pattern, when you go to blend it, it's just a real pain. So just close your eyes and dab if you can't do random while you're looking at it. After we've done the red, I'm just going to do the same thing, only with a bit of purple, because purple makes it look bruised. A fresh bruise anyway. If it was an older cut, it would be different colours, but a fresh bruise will be reds and purples. I'm just going to put those in between the red ones and a little bit further out towards the edges as well. Random dots. And the final colour I'm going to use is going to be yellow, because that's going to help it to blend into the natural skin colour around the edges. So that's literally going to go right around the outside of the cut. If you're working on someone who's got darker skin, you can use a brown instead, but in this case, yellow is the way to go. I'm going to do that just in a nice circle around the outside. Then I'm going to need a big brush with just water on it. No colour, just water. And I'm going to squeeze the water out of the brush so that it's damp, not soaking wet. If it's too wet, it's going to make your colours run, and it's going to make your latex start peeling, and you don't want that. So I've got a damp brush. And I'm going to start by blending the yellow colour, because that's the lightest colour. And you don't want to get the brush dirty with all the dark colours when you're trying to blend the light colour. So I'm going to dab around the outside edges of the yellow. I know my hand's in your way at the moment, sorry about that. Keep damping your brush and squeezing the water out to clean it a little bit as you're going. When you've done the yellow, you should be able to see this starting to fade into the skin colour around the edges, and you've still got your dots in the middle. And once you've done that, you can start dabbing over the dots in the middle as well. It's really important to use a dab technique rather than a brush technique, because a brush technique will give you stripes, and you don't want stripes in your bruises. That would be a bit unnatural. Plus it can start to peel the edges of your latex if you're brushing around them as well. So focus on dabbing. It takes a little bit of time, so be patient, but it does eventually work. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with the blending. I'm trying to avoid leaving a straight, obvious line all the way around the cut because that makes it look really artificial. So I've kind of blended it sort of a little bit higher in some places than others, so there's more of a natural graduation into the skin colour rather than a block. Then I'm going to add some blood. So we've got this special sponge, it's called a stipple sponge, and that's going to create a splatter pattern with the blood. Now because of where we've put this cut, she's likely to have cut a nice artery there, so if you're going to cut an artery you're going to get some blood splatter, which is going to look kind of like this when the sponge goes on. If you're cutting somewhere where there isn't an artery, then you can just dab the blood in so that it looks like it's been bleeding and you've been trying to stop the bleeding, and that's okay. In this case I'm going to leave some of the splatter on because of the area that it is in. Then I'm going to put some blood on the brush. I'm going to dip the brush into the blood and just roll it a little bit so it picks up quite a bit of blood. And I'm going to put that in the centre of the cut and trickle it down through over the top of where we put the black. I'm going to go this direction as well. Then you've got to decide if you're going to put some blood drips on there or not. If you're going to do drips, you need to decide which direction they're going to run. So blood drips are always going to run in the direction of gravity. So if your arm is down at your side, it's going to run down towards the floor. If you're holding your arm with the elbow towards the floor, it's going to run towards your elbow. In this case, we're going to assume that the arm is down at the person's side. So we're going to run down towards her hand. So I'm just going to get a bit of blood on the brush again, and I'm going to do, sometimes it'll run naturally. This particular blood is quite thin. I'm just going to do squiggly lines and not too uniform in length, okay? Because blood doesn't tend to run in straight lines that are all the same size. It looks really artificial if you do, obvious sort of stripe lines. So we just want it to look a little bit of a natural trickle. And they're going to go out a little bit, but mainly down towards the person's hand because that's the direction that the hand is going to be held when she's all finished. So I'm pretty much done adding blood to that. I don't want to add too much because it's just going to end up dripping all over the floor. How much you add is up to you, but bear in mind if you're in a carpeted room, probably not a good plan to drip too many places. And that's pretty much your basic cut. That's a really good place to start and somewhere to build on with your other effects.